All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to I'll name this segment later. GTG spits that grease, so on and so forth. Title forever in the works. Hopefully, you guys are doing all right. And if the current title hasn't given me away yet, we're gonna be talking about because I've been on DSP's neck about this fighting game stuff pretty much all year, at least consistently, I should say, all year. We're gonna talk about, or DSP is gonna speak about, I should say, what his ideal Street Fighter game would look like and plays like. Well, the truth is, and you can go back no further than Street Fighter 5, to be honest with you. He'd like a game, the next Street Fighter game, to play like Super Turbo. That's really what he wants. He wants something incredibly slow paced, methodical, even though he's not really methodical, but something slow paced, something grindy, if you will, and something that's inconsistent and or random as it pertains to damage output, because that's what Super Turbo is. And the reason why DSP was so hyped for Street Fighter 5 is because he literally thought it was going to be the second coming of Super Turbo, and then he found out that he's a fucking dunce, using his own vernacular, and that's not true. It's not true. So there's that. To be honest, he also wants it to be formatted like Super Turbo. So your 8 original characters, then your 4 boss characters, and then in Super Turbo you had the new challengers. So what was that? Fei Long, Cammy, T-Hawk, and DJ, and then build from there. And to be honest, I actually don't have a problem with that. He maybe or not all of them, but maybe the next Street Fighter game, whenever that is, should be formatted with those particular characters, and then add maybe 4 new characters, and then just do your seasonal shit and build out from there. To be honest, so you always have something for your legacy players, if you will. That's a term they use in Call of Duty now, legacy players, or your old school players, if you will, or your OGs. And then you got something new for the, your newer audience, if you will. I think that's the way to go about it. But for DSP, yet again, he just wants Super Turbo because it's the only thing he's ever succeeded at, even though he really didn't. But that's the only thing he ever succeeded at, even though he really didn't. But it's the only thing he ever succeeded at, and that's where his foundation needs to be, because that's his foundation for anything. If something good happens on Monday, right, the following Monday, he's expecting the same thing, and that's why he's going to format it the same way. Why is that? The way DSP does anything is the way he does everything. And what is rewarded, it will be repeated. And DSP is the shining textbook example of that. But in any case, let me not go ahead and let's not hold off on it. Let's go ahead and tap in, and let's see what we have here on the chopping block. Should be short. Let's see here. All right. First off and foremost, you know the rules. Big ups to Raw Phil and whatnot. And let's see. I think I got all my pigs in a row here. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this party started.
Elder One, welcome to the stream.
Oh my god. His music choice is terrible.
THMF says, at your eyes, it's weirdly worded, what would be a perfect 16 to 20 character starting roster for a future Street Fighter 7?
Oh, that's another thing too. I think starting off with 16 characters is just not enough. I think now, as it pertains to fighting games in particular, you need at least 24 characters off rip. 20 to 24. And I know that seems like a lot, but at the same time though too, you want as many options as possible. You want as much variety as possible. That right there is what allows replayability, if you will. You know what I'm saying? As the longer you can keep someone engaged, the better. That's why YouTube's formulated the way it is. That's why Twitch is formulated the way it is. That's why Call of Duty keeps doing yearly releases. They want to keep people on their brand playing it as often as they can, even though if you look at what Fortnite does, they just keep building off of the foundation that they laid instead of constantly needing to reintroduce shit. But whatever, that's semantic. That's 2 separate games in the first-person shooter genre, even though I guess you would really think of Fortnite as third person, to be honest. I mean, I think they have a first-person mode now, I think. But anyways, I guess that's really more third person. You get what I mean. In the, in the FPS genre, if you will. So there's that. But I think you need like 20 to 24 characters off rip. As I said, I think that's probably one of the best starting points possible. It's unfortunate that we don't have games like Third Strike or CVS 2 or Marvel 2 that just had huge rosters off rip. But keep in mind, you didn't have DLC. So they front loaded everything the way they did on purpose, given what the time period was. So there's that.
I think, like, for example, if you're gonna have a new Street Fighter game, I think number one, you always kind of have to have the original 8 characters from Street Fighter 2. Like, that's a given. Then you probably have to have some of the boss characters, maybe not all of them, but some of the boss characters.
No, you should have all of them. You shouldn't exclude. If you're talking about the original cast, you have to have Vega, Balrog, Bison, and Sagat. You have to have all 4 of them, to be honest with you. Now, if he's talking about like Seth and some of those other guys who came later, like in the Street Fighter 4 era, you might be able to give him some leeway on that. But I do think that you should have the original 4. Start off with the original cast and then start building from there. Like, there's people in Street Fighter 4 that should have already been reintroduced, and they did, like Abel, for example. Like, that dude, like, in just Street Fighter 4 and in Super Street Fighter 4, now I think about it, that dude was ridiculously dominant. I remember him getting nerfed mad times. My older siblings used to get super mad about that bullshit. They just kept slapping his ass with the with fucking nerfs. But he was still a solid player. He was still super solid. Rufus was another one. He was never OP, because I hate using the word OP, but he was definitely really, really good. He was really, really good. Even when Yun had his rise, still people liked Rufus because of how his dive kick worked and how quick it was. And if you were really good about it, man, you could chain those things together and shit. That just gets stupid. Go back and look at old Street Fighter 4 matches. You'll see what I'm talking about. Crazy shit. But some of those characters need to be reintroduced. You know, it's great that you got Jury back and some of these other guys, but not, like, the fact that Abel and Rufus didn't get reintroduced is kind of nuts.
That were considered, you know, core to the franchise, I would say. You always want to have at least 4 new characters, is my take. So let's say the 8 originals, let's say some of the bosses, so maybe like you could have like, I don't know, like Bison, Vega, but then maybe you grab characters from like Street Fighter 4, you know, Jury, you know, I don't know, Karen, throw her in there. Then 4 new characters. So already you have 16, you know, and then maybe 4 fan favorites from other franchises, or maybe fan favorites from like previous iterations, like 1 character from Third Strike, 1 character from Alpha that hasn't been around in a while, something like that. But the key to me, for a successful fighting game, you need to have the variety in the gameplay styles. The entire game can't be everyone plays the same. You have to have 1 character that's a rushdown character, 1 character that's a keep away character.
But the characters aren't built like that. That's kind of one of his problems. Let's take Street Fighter 4, for example. You have people who play Ryu in a bunch of different ways back then. You have people who basically but they basically based their entire offense around his fireball. You had people who based it around his uppercut and his hurricane kick. You had people who were just rushing in straight combos and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Street Fighter 4 had a lot more versatility in the games, in the system. Like, how the system was set up was way more versatile than you've seen in Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6, I think. And I think the creators realized that, the developers realized that, so they gave all these extra game mechanics to try to make up for it. But the reality is that Street Fighter 4 was very much like the philosophy of Bruce Lee's "be like water." You know what I'm saying? And you could apply that to every character, because every character could be played multiple ways. That right there, I think, is the best type of fighting game, because or the best type of iteration of Street Fighter, to be honest. And that's the reason why they made so many of them, and that's why it lasted for so long, because of the fact that each character had so much versatility, and they didn't have this rigid fucking format like DSP wants. The reason why, and low tier guys like this too, the reason why they want characters to be so rigid and one dimensional, because then, oh, you can only come at me in one different way, and that's it. That's why DSP hates Street Fighter 4. That's the reason why he refuses to play it. And that's why he keeps making excuses about it being a dead game. He won't play it because he's too scared of what's there waiting for his ass. LTG will play it because he had devoted so much of his goddamn life to it. But both of them have said multiple times on how the Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6 are missing something. And one of the things that 5 and 6 are missing is the fact that there's real character fluidity. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're missing. What they do is they try to give you all this extra stuff that's part of the game system to compensate. but there is no real character fluidity. You don't get that in the newer games. The older games had a lot of that and whatnot, or the older Street Fighters at the very least. But the newer Street Fighters don't really have that. And if he used that as his argument, people would it would resonate more with people. But DSP doesn't understand fluidity or the concept of that, so that's why he never uses it. That's why he never uses that as his example. It's just being limited, not so much in vocabulary, but just in way of thinking. He's not an open-minded person, and that's why he displays what he displays.
There, one character that's a grappler, one character that's a hybrid, one character that's a zoner. You see what I'm saying? All of that is valuable. You need to have that variety. That's what's always made fighting games good, that the game has a different kind of style depending on, you know, how you play it or who you select. And sadly, too many modern fighting games forgot that, and the games play so samey.
There's a reason for that too, actually. I'm not going to defend him I'm not going to be defensive against what he said, but there's also another problem too that should be brought up. You got to remember those early fighting games, and we spoke about fluidity, right? And based on what the characters could do, based on what the engine allowed them to do. Those early games, the engine allowed a lot of freedom, right? Well, you got to remember, those early games were developed by, were programmed by actual game developers and programmers and shit. Now, you got a lot of guys who are either deeply FGC fans, or they're dudes who came up out the FGC, or you got dudes who are consulting, who are FGC fighting game players themselves. So the FGC, I should say, and the community's influence is far stronger now than it was back in DSP's day. And I think that's kind of part of the problem. We don't actually have developers just making games. Now we got all this input from fighting game players, and in some ways that's kind of messed things up. You know what I'm saying? Because the way a developer or programmer will look at, okay, we're making a fighting game. Okay, let me go with what I think would be good. Like what would give them the most amount of freedom, but sticking within a particular system that can be controlled and not exploited. And then hearing feedback from this guy saying, oh, well, you know, the fireball needs to work this way, and there has to be this much active frames, and you should be at this much frame disadvantage, and then that becomes a problem. And one of the better examples that I can give you is look no further than one of my favorite games, Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying? Like when you actually had programmers and developers who only cared about making games and whatnot, and then they had like the outsourcing from like military experts on how guns should work and velocity and all that, but still keeping it arcade twitchy gamey. Like, I hate using gamey, but you know what I mean, like an arcade shooter, like a Twitch shooter, the way they did. Those are considered the golden age of Call of Duty games. When you started bringing in these bedroom streamers, let me take that back. When you started bringing in content creators and streamers, and the CDL, or the Call of Duty Pro League, became the priority, when you started letting these guys in and taking their input as the gospel and whatnot, and they were actually able to navigate how the game should play and how they should go in this, that, and the third. That's why Call of Duty's all fucked up right now. Like a lot of people, I get in arguments with people on Reddit about this all the time. People are like, Black Ops 7 is a good game. And I think people like you don't give it a chance. No, the game's garbage, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not saying that the game can't get better, but the game's garbage. And by the time the game does get better, no one's going to give a fuck. So, sucks a suck. You know what I'm saying? Sucks a suck. Out of the last 3 games, the game that was the least appreciated, which was Modern Warfare 3 DLC. That's what it was. Modern Warfare 3 Remastered DLC or Remake DLC. It didn't start off well. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I didn't jump into that until Reloaded. Season 2 Reloaded is when I jumped in. And when I got all my footage recorded, I got hundreds of matches and shit. I've got plans for that too. But anyway, I got plans for all that. I didn't jump in until Reloaded. And even after playing that, because my peoples got me in on it, I wasn't impressed, to be honest with you. It wasn't anything special. But that's when I jumped in. After a little while though, I gotta admit, that's when they started really making tweaks and changes and whatnot. It got better, I think. And you could tell, like, you know what I'm saying? You could tell by how the weapons feel, tell how the maps were good. it worked out all the way up until season 6 when they kind of abandoned it for Black Ops 6. And even Black Ops 6, I didn't care for it too much. I fight for that shit tooth and nail now because the armory needs to be reintroduced. You shouldn't have to go to Warzone to unlock shit. And they need to bring Nuketown 24/7. They need to bring firing range 24/7, and they need to bring stakeout 24/7 back. And they will eventually, I hope, but they need to do that. Black Ops 7, it started off bad. I think it's still bad, to be honest with you. I do acknowledge that I see their improvements. It doesn't really matter though. It's too little too late. And by the time, if Modern Warfare 4, when that comes out, excuse me, it's gonna have a shitload of disadvantages before it even hits the shelves because of GTA 6. So that game's already dead in the water as far as I'm concerned. So whatever the next Call of Duty is in 2028, we'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you in 2028 on that bullshit. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think it's a good game now. It needed to be a good game when it launched. It needed to be a good game at the beginning of season 2. You know what I'm saying? Not at the beginning of season 4. Sorry, it is what it is. So anyway, that's all another rant for another day. Sorry about that tangent. But same type of concept. Like, you know what I'm saying? When they let these streamers and these content creators give their input on how the game plays, the CDL guys, they fucked everything up. The reason why that is because the casual community is the one who's buying the games. The casual community is the one who's playing the games. And when those player numbers, because I know PlayStation has this beta, they have a feature in beta where now you can actually see how many people are playing any game that you want, basically, for that previous week, which is a good thing. We finally can see actual player numbers. Now, I'll be honest with you, those numbers can easily be rigged. That's very obvious. For those of you who know, you know. But that shit can be rigged. But it's better than hearing people bitch and complain day in, day out about Steam numbers and shit. I'm tired of hearing about that shit. I want to see an actual number for stuff. That's the best way to judge whether a game is actually worth your time or not. If it doesn't have a fucking player base, then what the fuck's the point? That's why Steam needs to, or they're about to implement, this new thing where if a game has been if the game has been completely abandoned by the developer, then they'll tell you that. Or they'll just take it off outright. They won't sell it anymore, which they should. You shouldn't be running around here buying games on Steam thinking that it's a multiplayer game and there's nobody playing it. That's fucking bullshit. So anyway, but the same thing, but back to my point with Call of Duty. They forgot, the original developers and programmers cared about the common player, the casual player. Remember, the only reason why these streamers, these content creators, and the CDL even exist because they all started off as casual players. We shouldn't be making these Call of Duty games around content creators and pro players. It should be made around the casual players. These guys are getting paid to play this game, so they should be working within the confines of the casual, not the other way around. But that's just my own personal opinion. Fighting games, same concept. It's a casual game for a casual audience because that's who's going to buy the game. The game should be made for them. For pro players or whatever, hey, if you're as skilled and as talented as you are, you'll figure out a way, as you should, because that's what happened to those who came before you. So yet again, it's more hand-holding, more participation trophies, all that bullshit. And that leads to that whole yellow paint thing, that leads to the whole thing about games being dumbed down because of assholes like DSP. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It doesn't even matter who you're selecting, it's the same game. Like, dude, Invincible Versus, that game is such a simpleton's game. Literally.
Then why are you so bad at it? And that's another thing too when it comes to LTG and fucking DSP, amongst others. If the game is so easy, why are all you guys getting beat up? Like, I don't understand that. Like, how are you guys getting beat up? That's like if I say, for example, like I play a lot of Cold War, Modern Warfare 3, Remastered DLC, play Black Ops 6. If I'm running around here saying that, hey, these games are like Cold War is easy, super easy, man. Like I'm playing against fucking scrubs all day and noobs and, you know, Timmy no thumbs and whatever. If that's the case, then you would expect, oh, okay, then you're winning the majority of your matches, right? So your win-loss should be good. Or, oh, well, then you should be dropping 30, 40, 50, no problem then, right? Oh, you shouldn't be going negative then if that's the case, right? Right? If the game is really easy, then you'll make it look easy. and your output, your results should reflect that. DSP and LTG run around here saying games are easy, this shit's made for simpletons, this, that, and the third, and it's funny how that only comes up out their mouths when they getting their ass beat, when they getting their backs kicked in. Seems kind of strange. Seems real strange. And if everything's so samey, and you keep seeing the same tactics being used against you over and over and over again, why haven't you figured out a way around it? Makes you think.
It doesn't matter who you select. Almost all the characters play the same. You're just button mashing combos into a tag, into another combo, into a tag, and then you're looking for one hit leading to a combo into another tag minigame. The game is awful. Like, legit.
The fact that you're referring to that shit as a minigame is kind of crazy. Now, don't get me wrong. The fundamentals of fighting games is rock, paper, scissors for the most part. But he's overexpressing that in a way that's just, no. This is the same guy who's sitting here talking about our fucking Resident Evil has puzzle bosses. Make of that what you will.
One of the worst designed fighting games I have ever seen in my entire life. And they're acting like it's something good because they're trying to make money. It's terrible. It's the antithesis of where fighting games should go is what they did with that game.
Oh, you mean like the same asshole that will lie to you that he loves this game and he's always loved the series and he really cares about this game to do what now? To make money, right? So it's not okay for the companies to do it. It's not okay for the FGC to do it, but it's okay for him to do it. Okay. The music sucks, Phil. Jesus Christ.
Darkside Kim Jong-un with a $5 super chat and a really toxic message. Thanks for $5. I appreciate that. I really do. Maybe if you send another 2 or 3 super chats, I'll actually entertain your question and answer it.
And I see, I always look at that shit-eating grin. I always knew this was going to happen. That he was going to end up, I actually told you this was going to happen. That he was going to start trying to welcome back the troll dollar into the fucking gouty fucking economy. Because he needs it. He needs it. I mean, theoretically, he did that when he let Kino Casino in. Or when they let him in. Whichever perspective you feel comfortable with. But now, we're literally doing this for $2, $3 at a time. This is flashbacks to 2007. And sooner than later, there's going to be another Mort that's going to come about the woodwork and send him 100+ donations of $2 a piece and charge all that shit back and have this boy scrambling. And what I'm gonna love that. I mean, I'm not gonna love that because don't be a dent. Don't get this asshole money. But if you're gonna do it, if you choose to charge that shit back, probably would be in your favor. But I'm not telling you to do anything about anything. Spend your money any way you see fit. Jesus Christ. Fucking disgusting. Alright. And there you go on that. So there's DSP's thoughts on Street Fighter, or on what the next Street Fighter would be, which is funny because we're not even out of the life cycle of this one yet. But then again, who am I to talk? Because I was talking about future Call of Duties and saying they're already going to be dead on arrival, but it is what it is. And yet again, what's even crazier is I know one of my peoples are going to drag me into that damn thing. I'm going to play it because it's for my peoples. But it is what it is on that. It is what it is on that. As it pertains, though, let's go ahead and finish up. You know, so let's wrap up this business meeting, if we will. As it pertains to the ideal Street Fighter game for him, it's Street Fighter. It's another iteration of Super Turbo. Something that's really, he believes, is point and shoot. And the thing is about that is even his core belief on what Super Turbo isn't correct. He's played guys in Super Turbo and seen shit that he swears to God that he hasn't seen before. But I have. I've watched the old Evo DVDs and shit, and you'd be surprised you can still find people who sell those damn things. But you can also find it on YouTube too, where they actually have all the matches or whatever. And there's some amazing shit that those guys did in Super Turbo back in the early 2000s. Some of that stuff he should have seen or he should have known, but he didn't. He only absorbed what he could emulate. And that's the reality. He's limited as fuck in Super Turbo. And don't let anybody tell you different. There's a bunch about that game he don't know. He just went with what he could easily emulate or copy to win. And that's it. The true fundamentals of that game he doesn't know. He just knows enough to scrape by a win here or there. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's really all it comes down to. When he goes up against someone who really knows what he's doing, like that Null character not too long ago, like a Turtle Power, like any of those guys who've cleaned him up as of late, he can't win. He just can't. It's just, that's just the reality of that shit. If you want to say that he was something in his time, fair enough. That time is long gone and dead. It is what it is. And DSP will chase any game that will allow him to recapture some type of relevancy. The reality is, we live in a day and age where the internet don't wait. You know what I'm saying? Now that there are way more options, there are way more opportunities, and these are two things that he hates. He hates opportunities and he hates options because someone else will be able to take advantage of it and he can't keep up. And that's just what it is. So his ideal fighting game is something familiar to him, but he wasn't even good at that. So them remaking Super Turbo, for example, and if they cleaned up some of the nonsense and put it out, he's going to play it and he's going to get beat up. He's going to get beat up. The only thing that was going for him in Super Turbo is how inconsistent the damages are. I did a stream where we had talked, where I spent the majority of it doing fucking instant replays on some of the DSP's nonsense. The damage in Super Turbo is ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like Megan Thee Stallion's ass, ridiculous and shit. And that's why he liked the game. He liked how random it was with the damage. That's all it was. That was probably the only thing consistent about that game, is the fucking ridiculous damage, amongst other things. So it is what it is. As it pertains to, let's see here. As it pertains to how it plays, well, we just talked about it. It needs to be random and inconsistent, and how it should look. Basically Super Turbo and just add more characters. And that's it. But the archetypes and how he tries to sell you on the idea that he likes variety and it needs variety, if that was true, he'd play more Street Fighter 4. There's plenty of people on it, and it's the most freedom that we've seen over the last two Street Fighter games or iterations. He won't play it because he wasn't any good at it back then either, and he's scared to play it now. So it is what it is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys very much for listening in. This has been, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spit State Grease, so on and so forth. Catch you guys for the next one of these. Take care of yourselves. Don't be a dent. don't be a dent and whatnot. And don't give this idiot money. Jesus Christ. Do not give this man money. And so make sure you're all taken care of first before anything else. Later, people. Jesus.